Expose evil here. Like, share, subscribe. Now, this is a very important video for your firearm rights and to understand why we've been going through such violence for the last 50 years. You can find this article in different places. Just type in Dr. Narut NATO conference. This was the Oslo NATO conference of 120 psychologists from the 11 Nation Alliance, right? And this is what he claimed. Navy said to recruit assassins. Now, this is no different from MK Ultra or as seen in the movie Manchurian Candidate, American Ultra, Salt, The Long Kiss Goodnight, movies like that. The London Sunday Times quoted a U.S. Navy psychologist yesterday as saying that the U.S. Navy has trained servicemen and political assassins and placed them in American embassies around the world. Among the trainees were convicted murderers taken from military prisons, the story said. Navy psychologists and also selected men from submarine crews, paratroop units, other special training, it said. A Navy spokesman in Washington denied the report. He said the Navy categorically denies that it is or has been engaged in psychological or in any other type of training of personnel as assassins. No such training has taken place. The Sunday Times quoted Lieutenant Commander Thomas Narut, a psychologist at the U.S. Navy Hospital in Naples, Italy, as the source of its report when asked whether convicted murderers are being released for training as assassins. Narut reportedly answered, "It's happened more than once." Sunday Times reporter Peter Watson said he obtained the details from Narut after a talk he gave last week in Oslo, Norway, at a NATO-sponsored conference of 120 psychologist researchers. The paper said Narut had not been at his home or laboratory in Nepal since last week's conference, and Pentagon officials said he is not due back until Monday. In his talk, Narut said he taught combat readiness units to cope with the stress of killing. And the newspaper said, when pressed afterwards as to what he meant by combat readiness units, he explained that included men for commando-type operations and for insertion into U.S. embassies undercover, ready to kill in those countries should the need arise. The newspaper said Dr. Narut used the words hitmen and assassins of these men. Now, this is from 1991 by William Cooper or Bill Cooper, Behold the Pale Horse, and he was a Navy intelligence officer. For many years, the secret government has been importing drugs and selling them to the people, mainly the poor and minorities. Social welfare programs were put in place to create a dependent, non-working element in our society. The government then began to remove these programs to force people into a criminal class that did not exist in the 50s and 60s. The government encouraged the manufacture and importation of military firearms for criminals to use. This is intended to foster a feeling of insecurity, which will lead the American people to voluntarily disarm themselves by passing laws against firearms. Using drugs and hypnosis on mental patients in the process called Orion, as Project Orion, the CIA inculcated the desire in these people to open fire on schoolyards and thus inflame the anti-gun lobby. This plan was well underway and so far as working perfectly. The middle class is begging the government to do away with the Second Amendment. It says, author's note, I have found that these events have indeed happened all over the country. In every instance, I have investigated the incident at the women's school in Canada, the shopping center incident in Canada, the Stockton, California massacre, and the murder of Rabbi Meir Kahan. The shooters were all ex-mental patients and were current mental patients who were all on the drug Prozac. This drug, when taken in certain doses, increases the serotonin level in the patient, causing extreme violence. Couple that with post-hypnotic suggestion or control through electronic brain implant or microwave or ELF intrusion, you get mass murder, in every case with the suicide of the perpetrator. Exhume the bodies of the murderers and check for brain implant. I think you are going to be surprised. I'll scroll up if you want to read the rest. You can go look for it. It's on archive.